Hello. Once again, I am in my park. Oh, the sun. I encourage you to think of everything that you think you know and toss it out the window and engage in things from a place of a blank slate. Tabula rosa. Blank slate. You think you know everything there is to know about science, and learn as much as you can about science without, disrupting your life all that much. Unless you're a scientist, you should always be learning. You think you know? I have a friend of mine, kind of an associate, because he's like one of those people's like, I don't have friends. I have people who I enjoy the company of or I associate with. But friends, everything's transactional. And I feel sorry for the baby because he really does think everything is transactional. I'm just like, no, you can actually care about and love people. It's okay. You won't get hurt. But he's one of those people that probably still have a lot of healing to do. I just assume. I try not to make assumptions, but based on what he tells me and how he operates, I assume I can make it intuitively that this person's afraid of closeness. Anyway, but he's one of those people that's like, whenever he knew that I studied astrology, for example, I don't believe in none of that. That's silly. That is something that silly people do who don't know no better, who are ignorant and blah, 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 and science. And I'm like, looking at him with my mind, thinking this person closes himself off to so many facets of life just for assuming that what he's been told is the gospel. And I don't advocate for anybody believing in anything that I believe in. I advocate for you, at least before you decide to demonize or disrupt someone else's joy they get from something, is to at least dive in and see how you feel about it. Research it in some ways so that you can understand it before throwing it out the window. Because then you throw the baby out with the bathwater, you know? And I've always been one to say to anybody who will listen, hey, every facet of modern science got its ancestor, it's astrology. So I find, you don't have to, but I find it disrespectful to go ahead and say, well, that's illegitimate just because something else was born out of it that you seem is better. Yes, but we didn't throw out all of gynecology because back in the day, some of the more modern considered fathers of gynecology, because I don't think they're legitimate. But personally, that's because I did the research and understood where midwives were replaced and all of that stuff and how that went down. And old healers and medicine women. But nobody threw gynecology out the window when people was using chainsaws to open women up. And that's a fact. Unfortunately. Excuse me, water. So, we be derelict, excuse me, and saying something is illegitimate because we just want to be comfortable. You know what? No. Excuse me. Like a baby, sometimes I swallow wrong for no reason whatsoever. And I don't know why that happens. It just does. Anyway, so I think that it's a mistake to dismiss any information just because someone else told you it was the wrong information. We do this in multiple facets. When I say we, I'm talking about the collective we. In multiple facets of our life. And I say this to you. If your family has been Baptist their whole life and you didn't take the time to go find out what a Jesuit or a Catholic or a Muslim or a Sikh temple or church or hall looks like and what they're teaching, then are you all there? Or are you molded and crafted in the image of your mother and your father or whoever your caregivers or teachers were? Or are you a multifaceted person equipped enough to know the truth when you hear it? Or do you believe that you are someone who is unable to receive new information without being tricked into thinking the old information is bad necessarily? That's what I think happens to a lot of people. It's like, I can't receive new information because new information is a trick. Knowledge is a trick. And that, I think, is the biggest crime that is done to the human consciousness, is telling people that knowledge in itself is bad and it is a trick that would inevitably cause harm. No. It was knowledge that heals. Knowledge heals. Knowledge can heal us. It's the reason why we're no longer putting people, women in particular, into mental institutions for emotional distress that is legitimate. It's because we gain more knowledge and experience over time and realize, oh, they was going through hardships at home. Maybe that man was abusing her, and that's why she felt that way. Or she was menopausal and she needs effective treatment. So knowledge helps us. Even if the knowledge is something that we don't want, at least we know that now, don't we? But you can't never know if you never dive in and look. The journey I've been on has been very, very singular for a long time. And you know what? My silly self thought that I was always going to be with someone or a small group of people all the time. We're all going to learn together. And I kept trying to do that. But I've been alone. From the first moment that something hit my head and said, this don't seem right. Now, there's some people that might get offended by what the story I'm about to tell you. And here's the thing. The point is not to offend you. The point is to educate you. Butterfly, sorry. Squirrel. Is to tell you that you don't have to do what you're told to do just because you're told to do it. Maybe investigate and decide if you want to do that. This is back in the 80s. I was in elementary school. And I was told to stand up for the Pledge of Allegiance. Now, keep in mind, I'm reading books already. I'm watching documentaries already. Masterpiece Theater was the shit back then. Masterpiece Theater was on PBS and had the very, very old movies and sometimes documentaries and things like this. But PBS was the shit for me. Old books was a shit for me. Raisin in the Sun, I must have read that several times. Okay? It's not that I enjoyed everything I was reading. I was just absorbing the information. So for me, especially after watching Roots and things like that, for me, standing up in the classroom to pledge allegiance to a flag that I know governed a society that marginalized people who look like me seemed kind of off. Now, it's just coincidental that I happen to be also diving into different facets of religion. I will go with my aunt to different Baptist churches. I will go with my uncle to a Christian non-denominational church, and it was the Church of Christ. I will go with my friends whenever I would sleep over to their churches and welcome. I did it with open arms and open eyes. I wanted to know who was right, if there was a right and a wrong. Because everybody seemed at some point to say in their sermons and their lessons about how they're doing it the right way. They're serving God the right way. And I'm like, well, if you think you're doing it the right way, they think they're doing it the right way. Who is actually doing it the right way? And then you got to think about, okay, who has the majority of influence? Well, that was the Catholic Church. And so, of course, I kept tabs on that too and went to services there. And then my mom was Catholic before she passed away. And so I wanted to, most people in New Orleans are Catholic. I'm going to be honest with you. This is a Catholic city, through and through. A lot of my ancestors were Catholic. So I'm like, I'm going to stick with that one as my main. But I'm going to still go where the doors are open at, and I have opportunity to go to learn and understand. This particular time that I had that thought, I was going to the Kingdom Hall with my aunt's sister and her children from time to time. And we called her aunt too, even though she was just aunt by marriage. And in the Kingdom Hall, there was a religious rite where you didn't have to stand for the American flag. That's the only thing that I would really go out on a limb and be like, the Kingdom Hall was right about that. Standing for the American flag, it didn't seem right then, and it don't seem right now. And so I used that exception. I was in the 4th freaking grade. And it said, it's time to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I got a wild hair up my ass. And I said, I'm not standing. It's like, yes, you are. Everybody's standing for the Pledge. I'm not doing it. I was 10 years old. I'm not doing it. After all I learned, I wasn't doing it. So a teacher got angry with me. He was a white male. He wasn't one of those white males. He was actually a pretty cool dude. He literally on purpose came to the inner city of New Orleans. Lower Ninth Ward, and back then it was Lower Ninth Ward was some of the roughest terrain that you can live in. And he did it on purpose because he wanted to help. He wanted to give back. So it wasn't like no racist stuff. It was just more like, well, we're supposed to do this because he was a veteran. So he took special exception to it because he was a veteran. And so like, nah, I'm not standing. He's like, why don't you have to stand? According to the law, and I started quoting law at him at 10. I don't have to stand if there's a religious exception. What religious exception you have? I said, I'm currently learning from the Kingdom Hall. I'm learning about Jehovah's Witnessing, and from what I understand from those teachings that, standing for the flag goes against God. So I'm gonna go ahead and sit. Now, God forgive me, but that's not why I was doing it. I was doing it because I was personally insulted by that concept of having to pledge allegiance to a flag that doesn't have everybody be completely free. So I'm just like, no, it's not fair. I'm not doing it. So he got mad. I did this for like 3 days before he's like, I already had enough. He reported me to the principal and made me sit in the principal's office. And tell my grandmother. My grandmother was 6'3", 6'2", 6'3", and a lot of women. Stocky, muscular, all those things. I didn't watch her a time or two whoop grown-ass men's asses. And she had no hesitation about whooping my little narrow ass. But I still did it. And I'm like, oh, she gonna beat the hell out of me for this one for sure, because I think it on her nerves. So she goes and so she comes and she sees me and she rolls her eyes, and that she had a way of rolling her eyes to let you know she didn't had enough of your shit and she's sick of your shit. So she sits down with the principal, and I said, I don't want to stand for the American flag. She pulled me out of the office and asked me why. I told her the actual truth as to why I didn't want to stand, but I told her there was no legal precedent for that. So the only legal way I could do it is a religious exception. And so I'm using the fact that I am currently studying the Kingdom Hall, and she knew I was. She didn't like it, but she knew I was, to sit down in class. She looked at me. She didn't say nothing. I think she was proud of me, but she didn't admit it. She wasn't like a feelings person, She walked me back in that office, and I thought she was going to tear my ass up, because it's back then you could still get your ass whooped in front of the class, in front of the principal, in front of anybody, and nobody was calling child protective. It was a normal thing to do. She walked me back in there, and we sat in front of my teacher and the principal, and said, well, she doesn't actually have to stand up if she don't want to. She's been going to the Kingdom Hall, and according to their religion, they don't have to stand for the American flag, and I think legally she can still sit down. Is she disrespecting anybody in the class when she do it? No. Is she saying anything? No. She just sits. Well, who is she bothering? And I was shook. I thought my grandma was going to make my ass stand up, but she had my back on that one. I was like, yes! So I've been sitting for the American flag for quite some time. Every now and again since then, I'll stand up just to keep peace, because I eventually married someone who went into the service, and I wanted my children to have some level of discipline and respect for something, but eventually educated them about that and had them make a choice. And then there were rules, like cultural rules and norms. When you lived on base, it was almost impossible not to sometimes, especially for the kids. So I didn't want to be obstructionist in that way at that time while they were being raised. I didn't want to make life hard for them. But whenever I could, I still sat. Because until we're all equal, none of us are free, really. Especially when there are still children being raised to believe that they're somehow better than other people based on whether or not they have melanation or not. That this land is theirs. And simultaneously teaching you the land is yours and teaching you that Christianity is law. With Christianity is law, it says, thou shalt not steal, and this land was stolen. And it's okay as long as you stole it through blood. Like, it's a weird oxymoronic juxtaposition that don't make no damn sense. How are you a Christian knowing this land is stolen and thinking it's yours because your ancestors stole it? I don't understand. I don't understand how that makes sense. But you can't preach common sense to cognitive dissonance. It never works out. Anyway, so eventually I go back into the class. And every day after that, I got to sit down. And my teacher ain't never said nothing to me. And I thought, wow, we became buddies. Because I never gave him no problems. I never gave nobody else no problems unless somebody gave me a problem. There are times my ass was definitely supposed to get suspended, and I did not get suspended because I was doing something on principle. He would give me detention instead, though. It's like, because you're too disruptive. I'm like, yeah, but if something don't seem right and it don't sound right, I'm going to say something. I've always been this way. But I've always been this way, and a lot of time being this way alone. And that's just the point. If you find that you're standing on business or standing on something alone, that's okay. Keep standing on it, though. People ain't gonna always like it, but do it anyway. Like, I'm encouraging you to go into every facet of religion and give it the honor and respect that the people who engage in it give it, right? Does you mean you have to absorb those belief structures? No, but educate yourself about them so that you can understand why it is that people believe the way that they believe. Not that, oh, they're worshiping a different God than we're worshiping, so it must be demonic or bad. That's something you've been taught to believe. That don't make it true. Find out what is true. Find out what is true. What I've understood, and I ain't gonna bury the lead. I'm gonna go ahead and tell you. What I found out what is true is that God is within all of us. If we decide to seek inside. You might say it's weird to me at this particular point that people think that God is a deity on a cloud. Do I believe in deities? Yeah, I sure do. I believe creation doesn't come from nothing. We have it all around us, proven to us that creation doesn't come from nothing. A spark of life happens between two, and it creates more life. So something created us. It's not even rocket surgery. It's just my eyes, ears, nose, all the things can see how things work and operate within my own environment. So I assume above and below are the same. And then I looked further to find out more and more and more. One of the most beautiful religions that I've tapped into in my lifetime has been different various Hindu faiths. One of my favorite deities to learn about was Kali Ma or Ma Kali. Depends on who you ask. Because she's depicted so scarily most of the time. It's the one with all the arms, and she has a tongue hanging out. If you're unfamiliar, and she's usually got a severed head in her hands. Well, that severed head is because somebody did some real janky stuff, and she decided, well, you ain't gonna do that. She is the epitome of understanding the shadow self and the version of you that is light and the version of you that is shadow, because she has two versions of herself, just like we all have. And I think we do well to learn, even if you believe it to be mythology, we do well to learn from those stories, because if we dive in and choose to learn, we can see ourselves in everything. And we can potentially grow and learn from those stories. Like, well, the Bible is the only law of God. Well, if that's the case, then why do we have anything else? The same people that say God created everything also says people who read about deities such as Kali Ma, or those in the African diaspora specifically sometimes, which is, wait a minute, if everything was created by one, then all of it is good. Do you understand what I'm saying? If everything was created by one, then all of it is good knowledge. Learn from what you can learn from, even if it's you learning what you don't want to do to somebody. Because when I say Greek mythology, and sometimes even the mythology of the Loa and the Orisha, you're like, oh yeah, I don't want to participate in that. But I can learn from it. You might think, well, something can't be powerful and still be flawed sometimes. That's not how that works. Because I know I've been flawed, and I will never question my own power. You can question yours if you want to, but no. I think it is important to understand that when you dismiss knowledge, you dismiss part of your potential self. It's like, we must worship, we must do this. Yeah, I think we should honor our ancestors and honor whatever we perceive God to be through an honest process and practice, if we choose to do that. But I also this ain't my first rodeo saying this to you neither. I think sometimes atheists are the smartest among us, because they're choosing, especially the ones who are choosing not to be pieces of garbage because they just choose to be good people. That is the most powerful of choices, given all the choices. Does that mean even an atheist will learn about what they perceive to be mythology? There's not an atheist I've ever talked to that haven't had some curiosity about mythology. They still dismiss it in some way, obviously. And then agnostics too. Agnostics, those are the bee's knees. Why? Because they don't pretend that they know. And they choose to live. A lot of them choose to live, especially if they call themselves agnostic. They choose to live a good and productive life without telling you that you're wrong and you're bad for choosing the way you live. And they never tell nobody that they know a damn thing. I think that there is something, I don't know what that something is. That is the most humble and intelligent position to take if you don't know nothing. And some of y'all don't know how to be humble. It's been my experience, which is some of you don't know how to be humble. And so this is me saying to you, maybe humble yourself a little bit and look into everything. Look into as many things as you possibly can before you make judgments. Why am I saying this to you right now? This might come out of left field, but my phone about to die, so I'm going to go ahead and tell you. The people who claim power now, who are doing things that are challenging and unsafe and not from love, at least that is my assessment of the situation. Remember when we said assessments was? Their power comes from you not knowing no more than what you're told. If you start expanding your knowledge and making an active choice to choose differently based on that knowledge expansion, their power decreases. That's what I've been doing. I'm trying to decrease the power that one specific force, this force and source, has filtered through a collective this whole time. Because the power vacuum don't need to just be in one space. It's supposed to be a balanced place. And if we can free some people's minds from those shackles, that'd be Gucci. That'd be good. That'd be good. I do not believe for 1 second that we're supposed to be enslaved, mentally, physically, or otherwise. And I told you before, I believe slavery has persisted. It's just different. There's no whips and chains. There's just things that are exorbitantly come with exorbitant costs. Jobs that don't pay enough, and they know it. So if we don't pay you enough, you'll never get out of bondage. We'll always have slaves. We can shout from the rooftops that things cost too much and we don't get paid enough all we want to. They know that already. But as long as you keep believing in what they're telling you to believe, you'll never be free. But sometimes there's pit stops along the way. Like, I don't think a lot of people understand that, for example, the structure of the African diaspora and the belief structures within those. They didn't have tarot. That's something that we eventually embraced, right? They didn't have tarot. And sometimes tarot in and of itself can be a good mechanism and tool to help you branch out and understand divination a little bit more, but it also can be problematic. So I'm just using that as an example of we can educate ourselves without diving all the way into things that might be problematic. If you feel like you are starting to have an issue or a problem with something because it's causing you distress or causing others distress, maybe take a pause and figure out why it's causing distress and if it's going to be a long-term effective tool or not. I still read tarot, but never from a space that causes you to obsess with another human being. Now, there are people who do that, go ahead, but our folks, from what I understand and what I've educated, our folks, when I say our folks, I mean what humans perceive to be African folks. I personally am one of those people that believe differently, but that's for another time. But melanated folks didn't start with that particular branch of divination, so it's not something that I always gravitate towards. I did for a while. Again, open mind. I gravitated towards every single aspect and facet of that particular thing so I can understand it through and through and decide if it's for me or if it's not for me. And if it is for me, then I'm not going to judge anybody else who it ain't for. Do you understand what I'm saying? From that space. Dive into every aspect of belief structure from a space of an open mind, tabula rasa, from an open mind, blank slate, that nobody done told you nothing. And I did that with every single religion or belief structure that I possibly could do that with. And understand, here's a key. Apply the golden rule to everything that you're learning. The golden rule works across the board. Apply the golden rule to everything you're learning. Once you learn a facet of somebody's belief structure and religion, apply the golden rule to whatever it's teaching you. And if it don't fit, then don't use it. But I would definitely encourage you to take every single teaching and tenet from every religious structure and every belief structure that actually could fit to help you in your daily life. They're all saying, a lot of them are all saying the same thing. It is people who want to control you that tells you there can be only one, like Highlander. And we must dislike, distrust, and hate those who don't believe as we believe. That's only people who want to control you, or who seek to control and to harm. The unfortunate thing has been males who have done that. Because there are things from what I experienced, and you could experience something different when you educate yourself. From what I experienced, there are things that are conveniently added or edited to give specific people power and specific people control over things. From a nonsensical space, based on my assessment, you can assess something different. But how you gonna know that if you don't go look? I mean, Native American culture, Yoruba culture, Irish culture, Appalachian culture, because that's a mixture of a lot of things, child. Yes, Santa Morta. Yes, voodoo and hoodoo. Yes, learn it all. Learn it all from a place of honor and respect of what you are diving into. Yes, read the Quran. Read the Gita. Understand Hindu faiths. Go and try to understand it. And you will see there was nothing to fear and nothing to hate. And some people say you can't honor your ancestors, that's demons. How? And if you're strong and mighty, and I tell you to be strong and mighty all day long, if you don't believe it, then there's nothing I can do to help you other than to tell you. There's nothing outside of you that can hurt you in here if you get in here solid. So while you're doing that, I also suggest you go on a healing journey of your own. Go into therapy if you can. Make sure it's a competent therapist. Don't just settle for somebody who ain't competent. Make sure it works for you. Start cleaning out decluttering your life from things, people, places, and things that you know don't treat you the best, and you're not the best when you're in company of. So if you know you hang out with a certain amount of people, certain types of people, and when you're hanging out with them, it seems like a good idea to snort something or pop something or become completely inebriated and shit-faced or go home with randoms, then maybe it's time to stop all that. I'm not judging you. I'm just suggesting to you while you're on a journey of learning, also go on a journey of healing yourself to a place where you're comfortable not doing all that stuff and have a happier existence. If you constantly eat and shop when you're in your feelings, then that's what we're going to start going to therapy for that. We're going to seek out some kind of healing. And I would say, beyond a shadow of a doubt, healing yourself while learning and growing through different facets of belief structures and tenets is one of the best ways I know. You might say, well, I can do that, but sometimes that's hard. Yeah, sometimes it's hard. Because some things you're going to have to let go to get there. And yes, learn about astrology along the way too. Learn piece by piece. See, when I first started teaching people astrology, I had to pull up that birth chart and start teaching them degrees and angles and all that stuff. And they would be so lost in the sauce. I'm like, why are you not understanding this? It's one of those things that came to me in sleep, came to me in dreams. And so when I finally saw it, I understood it. And what I didn't understand is how to be an effective teacher at that time. The best thing my students have taught me is how to be a more effective teacher. And I appreciate them to the moon and back because of it. To slow down sometimes and take it piece by piece. I've been telling my children since they were little people, the most effective way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time. So if something seems a bit more complicated to you, because a lot of people, especially in this country, have been taught, I'm just checking my battery, been taught for a very long time to be very ethnocentric as it pertains to just Christianity. So that's very culturally specific. And so we can quote the Bible, but you can't quote nothing else because you wasn't raised on that. You wasn't indoctrinated with that. It's on our money. It's in our textbooks. It's everywhere around us. So you've been indoctrinated whether you realize it or not. Unindoctrinate yourself. Learn about other things. It's not that scary. And listen, your faith is strong. Well, and this is mostly talking to Christians, but anybody who out there listening to me can have it. Your faith is strong. Your will is strong. There's no temptation to leave what you already believe. But if there's some part of you that can love somebody better through understanding, and that's all you get from learning other things, then okay, you've already made the world a better place by doing that. I'm cheeky though. I'm gonna be honest with my bias. I've said it before, I'll say it again. Most of the world's ills, as it pertains to manipulation, war, violence, abuse of the vulnerable, are filtered through one space. For the most part. Nah, there's other spaces. Abrahamic religions. And then, to a great extent, Christianity, and to a great extent, Catholicism. the conclusion I came to from understanding all. And I could be wrong, and I welcome a conversation about that with anybody if they want to have it. But I choose to have a relationship with God. I look at it in the mirror and telling me, what did you do today? How did you behave today? What did you create today? What did you not create today because you decided you ain't want to do that or participate in that? And I ain't even got to call it God. I could just call it me. You could do the same thing and connect. And some people are like, where's blasphemy? Child, I'm not concerned about you. If you won't even look and you won't even learn, you won't even try, and you don't have any information to tell me that it's not right, then why would I be concerned about you? Like, what was it, Plies? You want to argue. I can't argue with you. You mad. I can't argue with you. And I won't be. This information is to the open. This information is to those who want to connect more to their brothers and sisters. And when I say brothers and sisters, I mean all of us. And again, I'm going to be completely honest before I wrap this up because my phone about to die. From my education and my research, I know right now there is a vacuum or a space that can be tapped. And before they do that ritual, I'm going to try my damnedest, if I can manage it, to free my people. Whether I fell or not, I don't know. I like my eyes. I counted my own self out many, many times in this life. And I've learned over time not to freaking do that. I like my eyes. In order for you to be free, you must know. Anyway, before this phone go ahead and turn off, you're loved.